All right. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am your host and temporary guide, teacher, coach today. And I'm excited because we have entered into a new year, and this is my first recording for the year 2023 for Truly Foundation. And I can only start out by saying I am so happy and I am so grateful for this opportunity that has been placed in my stewardship. All of the material requirements, all of the things that it takes to make these workbook lesson sessions, commentary available to humanity. I can only say that I'm happy and grateful for the inspired will to be the navigator of this platform called Truly Foundation. And I do not take it for granted that this can happen. I don't take it for granted that there are people that actually listen and are benefited by these commentaries out of A Course in Miracles. And I'm happy and grateful for A Course in Miracles, for without the download that created this form, this work, this course, we would be looking for these consistent ideas in another place or more places, but it has come to us in this one form called A Course in Miracles, and I'm happy and grateful for that. I'm happy and grateful for what it has done in my life over the past 18 years. Yeah, 18 years that I've been studying the course. And I'm happy and grateful that for the last 2, maybe 3, 2.5 years that I've agreed to become a teacher of God, because I understand that I have an interest, and my interest is not alone, but my interest is joined with everyone else's interest. And so that's the only qualification I need according to the course, is that I see that my interest is not alone, but it is connected to everyone's interest. And so we have less than 100 lessons. We're on lesson 268 today. So we have 96, 97 more lessons. So for the next 96, 97 days, I know that we'll be together in this format, completing this assignment. And then once this assignment is completed, by the time we get to the end of that, we'll know what the next assignment is. But Truly Foundation is a virtual platform that is a nonprofit organization for the sole purpose of sharing advanced spirituality, advanced spiritual teaching, for the sole purpose of aiding humanity, assisting humanity and waking up to its true identity, to the knowing of the self. And through sharing these advanced teachings and inspiring everyone to apply these advanced teaching to their life, one comes to know the truth that these God ideas contain, and they come to know themselves and the oneness that we all share with our Creator. So thank you so much for your support and for being here. Today's idea, again, comes from Workbook Lesson 268. And it reads this way. Let all things be exactly as they are. That's really a profound statement, but let me read it again. It says, let all things be exactly as they are. The underlying idea here is that all things is sourced from the one thing. What is that one thing? That one thing is the only thing that there is, and that is God is. And so when we choose to allow all things to be exactly as they are, what we are exercising is faith or confidence that which is true, that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is changeless and unalterable. We are demonstrating confidence that reality, ultimately, the will of God, ultimately, the will of love, ultimately, prevails in all things, regardless of the appearance, regardless of the form, whether the form is in thought, whether the form is invisible or visible, because form takes the form of not being visible for an idea. A thought is a form. An idea is a form. A feeling is a form. An emotion is a form. As well as a door, a car, a body, the sun, the moon. These are all different forms. It says, allow all these different forms to be exactly as they are. And what we're saying here is that as we allow all things to be exactly as they are, then we come to discover ourselves. Then we come to discover that there is nothing that exists that is not surrounded by the love that God is. It releases us from all anxiety and fear and disappointment, misunderstandings. When we just let go, like they say, let go and let God. what we discover in that is peace. And so let's see what it says here. It says, let all things be exactly as they are. Let me not be God's critic, or let me not be the critic of God, or let me not be the critic of love, or let me not be the critic of the one source, and let me not be critical. Then it says, Lord, let me not be your critic, Lord. And this is one of the first time I ever seen the course use the word Lord. Lord just means custodian. Lord means okay. Forgive me for that. Everything on my side shut down completely. But we're back. Lord. Lord basically is a reference to one that is steward overall. The Lord is steward overall. So ultimately, God is responsible for everything. That's why God has placed his own assurance and guarantee concerning everything. God said, if I'm going to be responsible for everything, ultimately what I say goes. So when we understand that ultimately what God has said goes, we need to find out, what does God say about this? What is God's view on this? What is God's perception? What is God's idea? What is God's purpose? Why? Because ultimately it is the purposes of God that shall prevail. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. The only thing that matters is the truth. That is true always. The only thing that matters is what God created and how God created and why God created. And so let me not be your critic, Lord, or let me not be critical, Lord, today and judge against you. So here, what it's saying is that when we are critical and judgmental about the way things are, instead of allowing them to be exactly as they are, it says here that we are judging against love or against the Lord. They said we become judgmental, we become critical. We put ourselves in a position as though we know more than our Creator. That we know more than our Creator. It says, let me not attempt to interfere with your creation. So that when we become critical in judgment about the way things are, we become what? We begin to interfere with the Lord's creation and distort it into sickly forms. We begin to do that. Just to distort it into sickly forms. Because in reality, all things are good. In fact, he said in creation, it is very good. But when we become critical about the appearances, about the way things are, about conditions and circumstances and situations. Instead of forgiving them, like we learn, say, when we forgive, we wait, we look, we wait, and we judge not. That's a forgiving heart. Why? Because we understand that there's only one reality, that God is the only reality, that the purposes of God is prevailing and shall prevail, regardless of what the current conditions, circumstances, or situation, regardless of the forms or the appearances that we encounter. Now, this is all part of the transformational process, the renewing of the mind training that we're going through. See, one of the biggest issues that we brought to this whole process was that we were not disciplined in our mind. We gave too much sway to mind wandering and just letting our mind and our thoughts just go all over the place. But this whole process of being renewed, this whole process of transformation is a systematic way that we now become masters of life, masters of the truth, masters of reality. Instead of being slave to illusions, being slave to sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. That's not our inheritance. That's not our identification. And so we have released that, we have let it go. And now what is there to take its place? But is the will of God. And what is the will of God? Well, it's not for us to be critical. It's not for us to be judgmental. It's not for us to be unforgiving. But it's for us to allow things to be exactly as they are. And see all things from God's perspective, regardless of the form or the appearance or the situation or the circumstance or the condition. To look past what the appearance is in this perceptual world and see the truth, see the handwriting on the wall, which is truth. To look past devastations. To look past devastation. To look past devastation. I hesitate there because something came to mind. Above all else, I want to see things differently. This is from Workbook Lesson 56. Above all things, I want to see things differently. I want to see it not from my way, I don't want to see it based on the appearance or the form or the situation, circumstance, or condition, or from the perceptual perspective. I want to see things from God's perspective, from God's perception, from God's perspective. So as I can allow things to be exactly as they are when I'm in the know. He says, above all else, I want to see things differently. The world I see holds my fearful image or my fearful self-image in place of Let me read that again. It says, the world I see holds my fearful self-image in place and guarantees its continuance. While I see the world as I see it now, truth cannot enter my awareness. We cannot hold two thoughts at one time. So if we are holding a perception of the world based on our self-image, which is not in alignment with our reality, the real you, then it says truth cannot enter our awareness in that moment. However, I would let the door behind this world be open for me. This is kind of symbolic. I will let the door behind this world be open for me, that I may look past it to the world that reflects the love of God. And there you have it. That is the mind training. To look past the appearances, to look past the forms, to look past that which seemingly is in disarray or disorder or chaos or sickly or lacking or fearful, whatever it may be, whatever form it may take. It's all the same form. It's an illusion. It is there to rob you from seeing the love, only the love of God that is there. So to look past is a part of the transformation. We don't stop at the object or the image or the appearance. We look past. That is when you know that you are looking through the mind of Christ or the eyes of God, when you look past the form. Here's another one that says, we look past dreams today and recognize that we need no defense because we were created unexcellable, without all thought or wish or dream in which attack has any meaning. Looking past. The Course says that even this physical world was made as an attack on reality. An attack on God. It's an attempted attack to keep the illusion or the idea of sin, guilt, and fear alive and well in our life, in our perception. There was a specific one, look past, that I was looking for. I can't find it now, but I'll get it later and we'll come back to it. But anyway, let me continue. So, let me not attempt to interfere with your creation and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity. God's creation is unity. God's creation is oneness. It says, let me withdraw my wishes from its unity, and thus to let it be as you created it. In other words, God created like unto himself. God created perfectly. What God created is eternal and infinite and changeless and unalterable. What God created is love. What God created is like unto himself. What God created has no beginning or end. It's infinite. It's unambiguous. It merely is. God did not create forms. God extended himself, or extended his love, or extended his power, or extended his presence, or its presence. And in that extension is the ability. All ability. for that which it created to create. But that creation is a continuous extension of the purity and the perfection and the love that God is. Any idea outside of that is a tiny mad idea. And that tiny mad idea is what seemingly makes these opposites, these forms, these appearances that are disguised as the reality, and they're not. They're disguised as truth, and they're not. We have to learn to look past the images, to look past the appearances, to look past ideas of scarcity, ideas of lack, ideas of separation, ideas of death. We have to look past it and see behind the door, to see behind the world, the door where all reality exists, which is love. This is our training. This is what will bring you peace. This is what will bring you happiness and joy, not from somewhere else, but from within where it already resides. It's the knowing of the truth and allowing the creation of God to be what it is, to know and to understand that even our personal or impersonal identification, even our infinite identification, is changeless. We remain as God created us. For thus will we be able to recognize our true self, the real you that loves you, the real you that is one with God. It says, in so doing, we will recognize our own self as you created us, not as another self or an individual self, but not as a divided self, not as a finite self, not as a self that has a beginning and an end, not as a self that is a perceptual self, not as a self that is limited to time and space, not a self that comes and goes, but this infinite, impersonal, and self-aware self that we are, and that we all share with God as one. That's how we will perceive ourselves. That is the self-image that we will have, that is in total alignment, that is in total harmony, that is in total integrity with what God created, the I am self, the real you that loves you. So in love was we created. Why? Because God is love. So in love was we created. You are love. You know how many people struggle with seeing themselves as love. You know how you struggled. You know how I struggle at seeing myself as love.
I don't know what you mean by I see myself as love. How about a web search?
Thank you, Siri. We all have, and we all will, until we will embrace the truth of who we are. Until we allow God's creation to be what it is. You allow yourself to be what you really are in God, which is love. You are love. And it can't be any other way. Even our vain imaginings, our fear, our doubt, our guilt, all of the things that come to sabotage that reality, they can't do it. And now you won't allow it to do it because of the awareness that you have. Now you won't allow it to do it because of the transformation that you're going through, because of the renewing of the mind that you are embraced, because of the mind training that now has become the foundation for true perception. So in love were we created, and in love will we remain forever. Forever. And forever is not in the future. Forever is not in the past. Forever is right now. So right now, and in every now moment, and in every holy instant, we remain as God created us as love. You are God's love child. You are God's love idea. Yes, you are. Yes, I am. All humanity is. There are no exceptions. There are no exceptions. And we now understand that, we're not going to criticize that. We're not going to judge that. But what we're going to allow, what we are going to let things be exactly as they are. And as we do that, it says here, what can frighten me now? What can I be afraid of? If the Lord of creation who created all things like unto itself and has promised us and has guaranteed through his very own self, its very own self, that all things remain as they were created. And the forms and the appearances and the situations and the circumstances and the conditions that come and go in this perceptual world, they cannot overtake. They cannot put out the light. They cannot change or alter what God created, regardless of what it looks like. Regardless what a person's life looked like, regardless what a nation looks like, or what a community looks like, regardless. They only look like God when we look at them through the eyes of God and the purposes of God and the plan of God. So what can frighten me now? When I let all things be exactly as they are. What can? Nothing. Nothing can frighten you when you allow things to be exactly as they are. When you allow people, places, and things to be exactly as they are. And don't feel like you are the judge, the critic, the executioner. Because you think it should be another way. No, we're to shine light on everything, regardless of what it looks like. We are to speak life and breathe life to everything, regardless of what it looks like. Not judge it, not be critical of it, but what? Just shine light on it, because light is what is there. It'll reflect light back to you. Speak life words over it. It will reflect life words back to you. For this world is no more than a reflection of what's in our minds. But now we know that it is God that is in our mind. It is life. It is love. It is creation that is in our minds. It's the glory that is always shining. It's the peace of God, the happiness of God, the joy of God that is always in our mind, and it's always shining. How sweet it is to be loved. This is amazing. How sweet it is. The love that we share with our Father and with each other. It is beyond amazing. It is undescribable what God has done with us, not excluding from us, because we are not something that is separate from God. We are what God is, and God is who we are. There is nothing else. All the temporary, all the fleeting, all the ephemeral, all of this perceptual world is just a temporary reflection of what we think is in our minds. But when the mind is brought back into alignment and harmony and integrity with the truth, like we said earlier, the pure in heart shall see God or love in everything. In everything. Nothing excluded. In everyone. And so, in conclusion, let not our sight be blasphemous today. Let not our sight be blasphemous. We're seeing through the wrong perception. Let not our eyes be critical or judgmental, nor let our ears nor let our ears attend to lying tongues. We give no credence, we give no attention to the voices that are not the voice of God, to the voice of truth. We pay no attention to ideas and impressions that are not of love. We give them no credence. Only reality is free of pain. Freedom from pain, freedom from suffering comes as we allow only reality to be to get our attention, to be our awareness, to be our consciousness. Only reality and only God, only love, only oneness. Only in oneness is there freedom from pain and suffering. Understanding the oneness that we share. Understanding that there's God and nothing else. And that our existence is in God. It says only reality is free of loss. Because in reality, there is no loss. In the real you, there is no loss. In the real you, there is no pain. There is no suffering. In the real you, there is no birth, no death. There's no loss. There's no scarcity. In the real you, there is no failure. It says only reality is wholly safe. Only in your reality is there safety. As we abide in the unity and the oneness that we share with God and each other, therein lies our safety. Therein lies our increase and not loss. Therein lies our peace and our joy and not pain and suffering. Allowing things to be as they are. Why do we allow it to be as it are? Why do we allow it to be as it are? Because everything remains as God created them. Not as man made them, but as God created them. And God created the one thing, himself. And he calls himself the I am. And you are a part of that I am, one self, that one life, that one love, that one being that we all share. And it is only this that we seek today. Reality. God is your and my reality. God is everyone's reality. And everything that appears in form, everything that seems to be out of alignment, God said, I have consumed it in the light. And it remains as I created it. So therefore, we can let all things be exactly as they are. And we're not conformed or conned out of our reality. But we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. And so we can see clearly now, the rain has gone. We can see clearly now, there's only reality. The pure in heart shall what? See God in everything. God is no more than awareness, being aware of itself. You will become to recognize yourself. And the oneness that is joined is one. And there you have it. Workbook lesson 268. Thank you so much for being with us today here at Truly Foundation. We'll be back on tomorrow with another lesson. But until then, don't sweat anything, baby. Brother, sister, just let it be. Let it be. Let all things be as they are. For the Lord is a good steward. And all is well. All is well. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Best year ever. Bye-bye.